I'm J. Scott Scheel, the founder and CEO of the Commercial Academy, the president of Scheel Publishing and many other business entities. I'm a husband, a father, and a mentor to thousands of folks that represent millions and millions of square feet of real estate investments all across North America. I'm here to talk to you today about the crisis that we are facing. Looking at the financial implications of the COVID-19 health crisis, it's obvious that this has the potential to have an unprecedented impact on our economy. Even our most respected economic and financial authorities are uncertain as to how we can best make it through this crisis. In prior emergencies, we have all witnessed what happens when grand proclamations are made by government and others, promising help, relief, understanding, patience, and support, only in the end to find out that there was very limited benefit to those who really needed it most. And typically, the only assured winners were the banking institutions. People are justifiably nervous. However, any government action thus far regarding COVID-19, in our opinion, somewhat fails to recognize the strength of the American workforce. Our economic engine is what has separated us from the rest of the world. The American people are not asking to stop working or to stop living their normal lives. We are being told to stop, in fact, mandated by the government. Many of us are being forced to stop working, even though we know that this will seriously hurt and impact our families. Of course, we want to do our part. There isn't anybody that I've talked to who doesn't recognize that it is necessary for us to do this to flatten the curve and end the coronavirus implications very quickly. But if we are all supposed to be working together, and we are told that of the 50% of Americans expected to contract COVID-19, more than 95% will only experience mild or moderate symptoms similar to that of cold or flu. If that's the case, then why is it acceptable for all of us to be told to sacrifice our futures, our families' well-being, and even risking our businesses and our careers? Are our country's leaders willing to make a sacrifice for us that will actually benefit hardworking people who are more than willing to fight through this collective challenge together? Our plan has some similar components to the 90-day mortgage relief plan put forth by New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. But our plan goes much further in addressing all of the revolving and installment debt in America. I firmly believe that this is the very best solution for COVID-19. We are calling it the COVID-19 Moratorium and Forbearance Debt Relief Act, or MAFDRA, which is extremely simple and very fair. This program will provide for a full forbearance of payments and interest for a duration equal to the length of the federal state of emergency and mandatory government-forced quarantine. The exact length of time cannot be determined at inception, but it should begin immediately, and it should last for a minimum of 90 days. If the quarantine for some reason lasts for a shorter period of time, the 90-day period will allow for us to restart the country's economic engine and to regain some badly needed momentum. Let's keep in mind that our economy was incredibly strong and growing at a rapid pace before this insidious virus took root. The longer that the state of emergency lasts, the more lingering the economic hangover will be. Following this initial period, the corresponding second phase of the MAFDRA program and Debt Relief Act will go into effect. Simply put, phase 2 will be a 2 to 6 month period after the recovery date, characterized by the lifting of the federal state of emergency to allow for businesses to remobilize, restock, restaff, and for the nation to resume its normal economic pace. This period extends no longer than 6 months, regardless of the length of quarantine, unless the quarantine period should somehow and most unexpectedly exceed 1 year. In which case, MAFDRA Phase 2 would need to be amended based upon most current and available information. Now let me talk with you about the plan and how it will work. This plan will work if MAFDRA mandates that this forbearance applies to all payments, including bank debt, real estate, automotive and equipment finance, credit card payments, government payments, and so on. Furthermore, it should apply to all commercial and residential property payments. All of the owners of these properties will still be responsible for the necessary maintenance and operations of their properties, and a payment forbearance will allow them to fulfill these obligations. It is critical that federal legislation mandates compliance by all lending institutions registered in the U.S. Any SBA loans that have been made earlier or that are going to be made under the mandate of the current administration and their ability to make these loans faster in this crisis could be amended to make short-term loans available to businesses in need of lines of credit for operational shortfalls. MAFDRA provides for all debt payments, including but not limited to student loans, home, residential, and commercial mortgages, rent and lease payments, business loans, auto loans and leases, equipment loans, credit card payments, and payments to governmental entities. It will suspend tax collections and filings in the same way, including property taxes, many of which have already been done on a federal level. We already know that tax filings and tax payments have been pushed out already until July. To incentivize receiving payments from those who are able and can afford to pay on time, those who stay current on debt and taxes will be given a 2% reduction or a to-be-determined tax credit of perhaps as much as 5% in the amount that they supported to be used at any time within the next 5 filing years to apply either between 2021 and 2026 and to be eligible in the first full calendar year of restoration. MAFDRA provides for no blanket cash payments from the government to individuals and no debt forgiveness by any party. All payers will resume making their payments at the conclusion of the program, starting on the federally mandated date. And they'll do so in the exact same place where they left off before MAFDRA went into effect. This means that there must also be an across-the-board moratorium on all interest. Everyone, including business owners, should be impacted the exact same way. MAFDRA allows everyone to live in peace and to rest assured that during the forced exile, they will not be damaged. No one needs to lose their home, their business, their livelihood, their life's work, or any of their assets. If they comply with the mandated need to act in the interest of the mutually greater good, why should they be damaged? The healthy and the youthful should not be stripped of their own present and future lives and have their credit damaged while we all try and protect the immunodeficient as well as the elderly. Again, no one is debating that that is the right course of action and that it is prudent for us to exercise immense caution and to follow all of the directives that we get from the CDC and our healthcare workers. But for the average American worker, the largest monthly payments in forbearance would be applied to their mortgages, vehicles, credit cards, and student loans. Millions of people could then tend to the 2 essential remaining primary needs and expenses of providing food for their family and energy for their homes. Fortunately, with the low cost of energy and warm weather due soon, utility costs should also decrease in the weeks to come. Without additional economic stressors, Americans can tend to the health needs of their families, themselves, and the most vulnerable members of their communities. The previously announced $1,000 to $2,000 checks and the expedited unemployment benefits may also help many affected by this nationwide crisis, and our program dovetails extremely well with this. Regarding small business owners, with bank loans, equipment payments, and property leases in forbearance, they can concentrate on their entrepreneurial spirit, finding ways to collectively maintain their cash flows and their customer bases. Reducing the economic stress on business could enable them to perhaps maintain some staff employed, while others who would have been laid off are able to keep working, and doors kept open that may have otherwise needed to close. We all remember the crises where investing massive amounts of cash in poorly executed, hastily conceived solutions failed to achieve their intended results. Money and resources must confidently be directed where they are needed. We should not cast a wide net with gaping holes to address global industries and not to address the root cause of an economic collapse. These artificial stresses resulting from poor solutions cause waves of default that could undermine our entire economy and economic structure. Under these unprecedented conditions, with so much uncertainty, this typical response would cost us hundreds of billions of dollars to even trillions of dollars of bailing out banks who are now holding defaulted loans that had no need for default in the first place. This situation also has the potential to destroy the credit of hardworking Americans, especially those who are living paycheck to paycheck. We do not want a repeat of the situation that happened in the late 2000s when federal organizations were forced to pick the winners and losers in the failed aftermath of the banking and housing crisis. We also have borrowers on these debts already that are happy to make them perform at pre-crisis levels once this is completed. Why cause a default? Why write down the asset to post-crisis values and short all of the existing debt? Why cause losses on all sides? In the past, when unexpected and unprepared disasters occurred, we rushed to imprudently inject capital into the situation, hoping to offset negative effects. Conversely, To avoid the same unintended consequences, we could take a collective timeout and all support each other. This is a time of forbearance, and it will keep us united through this process. If we are all participants on equal footing, in this way, MAFDRA will work. I am certain of it. When this crisis is over, everyone will be allowed to return to their posts to responsibly resume paying their debts in a much, much better place, having avoided all of the chaos, fear, and destruction that could have wreaked havoc on the lives of millions of innocent people all across our country. MAFDRA must also include provisions that lending institutions must make small business loans and lines of credits available through the crisis. We've talked about quantitative easing and the Federal Reserve injecting $1.5 trillion. This will have a meaningful impact, but only if the loans are made. The last time interest rates dropped to these levels, lenders often chose to stop or were forced to dramatically slow underwriting, and the process of loans stopped in the process. Due to the uncertainty, they massively capitalized themselves. Since loan defaults won't occur this time with MAFDRA, banks can take an active role in jumpstarting the economy and bolstering small business without fear of being shut down due to excessive defaults, such as happened in the Great Recession. Banks were fearful. They saw what happened when institutions of hundreds of years in business were completely wiped out. We should not have mandatory government action without including a contingency to protect everyone, and not just the special interests and entitlements. Lastly, to ensure that critical services and vital needs are met for all individuals, we should enact a 90-day moratorium on utility service interruptions. These billings will be paid by spreading them out over a number of predetermined months and a period of time post-crisis with a reasonable interest rate. Those that can pay now and do so may receive a to-be-determined tax credit for providing additional support to the overall economy during this crisis. MAFDRA should be mandated immediately before hundreds of billions or even trillions of dollars are spent on programs that will not have positive long-term impacts and bolster our economy. Compared to handing out billions of dollars in the form of checks to every American adult that once cashed or spent, wisely or not, will not protect people from the devastating economic threats that will remain all across all market sectors. Mortgage payments and car payments will still become due, and people will not be able to be paying them. This will be devastating. The sooner we act on MAFDRA, the more confidence we will give consumers and markets that we are looking out for everyone. MAFDRA's timeout scenario can be our solution. Federal legislation will allow the country to skip these months in all financial documents. They will not have to be legally rewritten. This act will be across all platforms. April, May, and June financially didn't happen. They were skipped over and replaced by adding the same number of missing months to the back end of all repayment schedules. Everything else remains the same. We keep it simple, and the country and the world can return to normalcy. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a plan that will work for all American citizens, all businesses, all industries, all agencies, all governmental institutions, and all private institutions. Let's work to make this or some very similar plan the law of the land. Understand there is no pride of authorship here. Good ideas are welcome. Let's stay committed to making this happen. I am dedicating all of my time, energy, and resources until some similar type legislation is enacted. And until that time, may God bless us all during this unprecedented crisis. Remember, we're in this together. Stay calm, be patient, have faith. Good days are ahead.